Hi, today's video is about how I learned that special education law exists. So let me tell you our story quickly. And I will have lots of stories on this channel. So if you like stories, make sure you're subscribed. So our children, I have two with disabilities, and they were diagnosed fairly young. We knew that there were some challenges early on, and so they went through early intervention services, preschool, and into a special kindergarten class. But my oldest, was in an early intervention preschool, and I had a newborn. And I wanted to be the cute mom. I was so grateful for any help that anyone could give us. And I wanted to be the cute mom that brought cupcakes to school and that all the teachers loved and all these things. And it came time for the yearly review of what my daughter needed. And I don't remember, I think it's called an individual family service plan when they're not in elementary school, but it's similar to what an IEP is. And if you don't know what an IEP is, check out my video where I talk about the terms of IDEA, the different lingo that goes on. Anyways, an IEP is something where it defines, what the child needs, what their skill set is, how they're going to get the services, all of those things. And prior to elementary school, I believe it's called an individual family service plan. So it was time to do our yearly review for my daughter, and unfortunately, I had pneumonia. So the teacher called me on the phone, and we had a pleasant conversation and just talked about my concerns, and she threw out some suggestions, and that was great. Well, the next day, my daughter comes home, and in her backpack is this document that has all of these goals, all of these things listed as far as her skill set. It was the individual family service plan. And not only was it the individual family service plan, it was signed by multiple people that I had never spoken to, including a principal, a speech person, an occupational therapist. It was signed as if we had had a meeting to discuss all these things. And all I had done was talk to the teacher on the phone. So I was thinking, what is going on here? And I started asking questions. And those questions made some people uncomfortable because they are supposed to have a meeting and include the parents in that meeting, which did not happen. And yet they were trying to portray that it had. So I kept asking questions of, I don't understand. I don't know who this principal is. I've never spoken to them. Why are they determining my child's needs? What meeting did we have? And it ended up going to the director of preschools, who was a true delight. And if she ever watches my channel, just know how much I loved working with you. But it ended up going to her. And so we had a meeting that we were supposed to have to begin with. So I go into this meeting. I've got my 3-year-old who is a handful because she's breaking down, she can't communicate well, all of these things. And I've got a newborn. I think I just had the newborn at the meeting, but still, I've got a newborn that I'm trying to keep happy, a young baby in this meeting. So I go into this meeting and there's all these people in the meeting, including the people that had signed these papers. So of course I got to meet them. So we start going through my daughter's skill set and where she's at and what kinds of things she needs. And it comes down to determining, okay, how much speech therapy is she going to be given? How much occupational therapy is she going to be given? Does she need to be given additional preschool services? All of these things are coming down in the plan that need to be decided. And the preschool director looks at me and says, well, we will decide that in another meeting. What? I said, what do you mean you'll decide that in another meeting? Well, that's something that the school team will decide. And we have a form that we fill out that we submit to the state. And we'll decide that in another meeting. And I kind of was like, then why am I here? If you want my input on how my child's doing, shouldn't I be giving input on how much help I think she needs? Well, you can tell us what you want her to have, but we will make that final decision in another meeting. Well, I started asking questions again. after that meeting. And of course, what I was told, I shouldn't have been told. It was illegal. So we've now gone beyond the preschool director, and we're now at the district special education director. We have another meeting. This time, we have all the same people that had signed that original document. We have the preschool director, and we have the director of special education. And this time, I didn't have my baby with me, and I brought my husband. And we sat in that meeting, and the special ed director was better about making sure that things went as they should. I now know that, now that I know the law. She was better about doing that. But the preschool director sat there and said that she had never said the things that she had said to me about deciding things later, and that I must have misunderstood because after all, I'm an overwhelmed mom and I just must have misunderstood the process, and she never said those things. Well, I never would have escalated it higher in the district if she hadn't said those things. So I realized then and there, through that process, that there are people out there who are going to cut corners, who are going to do what works best for them on paper or within their budgets, and that your child is not always the focus, and that you have to speak up for your child, because if you don't, no one else is going to care as much as you do. So shortly after that, I met up with some moms. If you're a special needs mom, you know that your kids go to therapies and different things, and you get to know some of the moms that are there. And I met up with some moms, and one of those moms mentioned a book. And the book was called Special Education Law by Peter Wright. And she said that it had changed her world. She now understood special education law so much better. And so I went on Amazon, and I have to tell you, it was the best $25 I have ever spent on my children. And we've spent a lot. We did OT, speech, PT, we've had attorneys, we've done a lot. But that $25 book is probably one of the best investments that I ever made, because it allowed me to understand the process and to go into meetings and be educated enough to have conversations with people. Most of the time, people will try to, I should say sometimes, people in positions of authority are the experts, and you're just the mom. But when you walk in and you know what your rights are, and you know how to look up a certain subject in a book and can quote chapter and verse of what they're supposed to do and what they're not doing, it makes you it puts you in a little bit of an adversarial relationship. But at the end of the day, it's for my kids, and by gosh, I'm going to make sure that they are given all of the things as far as a free and appropriate public education that they are entitled to under the law. So I will put a link for that book, Special Education Law, down below. I joke that it is my Bible because I have used it and used it and used it. It has a great topical guide in the back where if you know a specific term like placement or evaluation or a least restrictive environment or something like that, you can look those up. And then it not only gives you a citation to go to a certain page in the book for the law, the legal verbiage, it also will reference Peter Wright's commentary on that specific topic. So it is an amazing book. Another book that I will link down below and do a separate video on is also from Peter Wright, and it's called From Emotions to Advocacy. And that teaches you, there's the law, but then there's a whole system set up of people who have different levels of authority in making decisions. And From Emotions to Advocacy explains how that system works and how there are different barriers that you have to break through sometimes to get to where you need to be. And there are people specifically put in positions to limit the amount of services that are given. They're called gatekeepers. They're informally called gatekeepers. They have an official title otherwise. But once you figure out who the gatekeepers are in your scenario and who's above them, then you have a whole different system that you can work through. So I will put a link for that book down below as well. That's how I found out about special education law. They don't come to you and go, let me give you an education on special education law. They might hand you a little pamphlet at a meeting that's completely overwhelming, and, that's it. And so it's really important that you understand special education law, that you educate yourself so that you can help your children get an appropriate education. So I hope that that's helpful. And until next time, make it a great day. Thanks. Bye.